Welcome to the channel, guys. My name's Josh. I just wanted to share a video with you today of an exciting flight I did. It's one of those flights where you tell your friends, I really wish I had that on camera. This time I caught it on camera. I do apologize in advance for the shaky footage. This was the first time I was using a chase cam. It's the PVG Smoke. I'll put a link in the description. The camera I'm using was a cheap Chinese knockoff of a GoPro. Unfortunately, I don't yet have a GoPro 9, so there's no stabilization. I had to do most of the stabilization in post. Anyway, long story short, we launched from the training hill down at Mount Broughton in Victoria. This training hill is normally used by one of our instructors for students' first flights. The training hill is situated at the bottom of Mount Broughton launch. It's roughly a 30-meter hill. After launching from the main launch and not finding a trace of lift, I landed in the landing zone, decided to walk up the training hill and give it a go. Here's what happened. Got a cycle coming through. Just here on the main launch at Mount Broughton, you can see the sky looks like a beautiful day for flying. The wind was slightly off to the south today, which is off to the left side. We're off. You can see Bob on the south side of the slope there. He had a better idea to launch more into wind. I think my plan was a little bit ambitious to fly around from the side of the hill into wind, and hence I caught quite a sinky line, as you see. And my sink alarm is set to -3 meters a second, so quite a bit of sink. Some sharp bits of lift. Quite an unstable day. A few bubbles here and there, nothing usable. Now as I near the landing zone, you can see the training hill just off to the left. There's some thermals kicking off from the tree line, but very, very small, very broken. But I thought I'd give it a go anyway. The danger here with this is drifting too much with the bubble, and you end up back over those trees and not able to make it back to the landing zone as there's a lot of sink. So I'm just feeling out the air, seeing if anything's usable. As you can see, very small lift, small bubbles, too small to really stay up in. I'm slowing the wing right down, trying to maximize the lift in each turn, each pass through the bubbles. And at this stage, I'm thinking that there's a chance I can climb up and save this. I was quite surprised as to how sharp and bubbly the lift was, and we're out of it. Lots of sink. From here, I decided to fly over the training hill as a last ditch resort, see if there's any thermals coming up from there. Often this training hill works quite well. It acts as a very good thermal source. So below ridge height now. Oi. Just feeling those bubbles come in and out. Just over the landing zone now. quite an amount of small punchy lift and a lot of sink on the other side of them. So I fly over to these trees and see if there's anything kicking off from those trees. Woo! I thought I might have caught one there, but too small. You can see how deep I am on the brakes just to try and maximize any bit of lift, but I think this is done. It's too low. Okay, so I've just landed at the bottom of the training hill. I pack my wing up and head up. You could see thermals rushing through the field that day. They were moving the trees quite significantly, moving the grass, and so I sat on the hill for 5 or 10 minutes watching the cycles come through, and this is when I picked to launch. So a couple things. I'm flying without gloves so that I can feel every little bit in the glider. I get into the harness quite quickly here, as the drag is quite important. I want to try and maximize all my lift, fly as efficiently as I can when the lift is extremely small. My theory was if I was not getting lift, if I was not going up, then the thermal was not strong enough. So when I lifted my wing, I wanted to see that I was being lifted off. So sitting at 292 meters, we're just soaring back and forward in a thermal which I believe is big enough. You can see not gaining a whole bunch of height, 292 meters still. Back and forward, using a lot of weight shift and a lot of brake to fly as slow as possible. At this point, I'm constantly watching my altitude and watching that number, 292. It's now 290, which is not a good sign when you're this low. So I make the decision to search elsewhere, 289, 288, so I'm losing height. I remember that there was some bubbles coming off from the trees just on the other side of this training slope, so I fly around there. The key is to keep exploring. If you're going down, keep exploring. If you're going up, stay with the lift. Okay, 302 meters. So this is much better than the little bubble I had before. Again, working it very slowly, very slow climbs. 306. The goal here is to climb high enough to be able to do a full 360. I'm also gauging this very, very carefully, as if the lift is too small and I do a 360, I will spend too much time in the sink and maybe end up over the back of this little training hill. So now feels the moment. I have 323 meters, and as I go round, I actually feel that there's quite an amount of sink. You can see that in the altitude there. So I fly straight into wind with full hands up, just feeling how big this bubble is. It's all about feel when you're this close to the ground. (223 meters). I'm trying to turn and guess how big the bubble is. I spent some time ridge soaring in that bubble, so I know roughly how big it is. I don't want to spend any time in sync at all if I can avoid it. So I'm intentionally flying very slow, very flat, very smooth. Sometimes using opposite weight shift here. 341 meters. That's the second 360. You know you've done it well if you turn the full 360 in the lift. Then you know the lift is usable, it's big enough.
this is when I decide to go for another 360. Now here, I'm actually using like an opposite weight shift technique. So I'm trying to keep my weight shift neutral, or even weight shift onto the other side as much as I can to maximize the flat turn. And although you can achieve a flatter turn, it does increase the risk of a spin. So be careful when using this technique. 411 meters. Now starting to climb up. The danger here is the drift in the thermal, as you can see. Yes, again, with such a drifty bubble, a thermal which is not so established, it will start to drift you back. We see this quite often at Mount Broughton. People catch a thermal low and drift back into this gully. And as a result, they can't make it back to the landing zone. So my decision now is, how far do I drift with this thermal? At the moment, it's quite a good climb and it's establishing quite well. Roughly 1 meter a second. At this stage, I am totally focused on staying in the thermal. I also need to keep an eye out for other gliders and other indicators of other lift, because I do not want to run out of lift at this stage. I do not want to fall out of the thermal. So I'm actually looking for other signs like eagles and other gliders. And after a nice climb up to roughly hill height now, 900 meters, we're just over the launch. It's nice to be up over launch from much lower. Andrew came and joined, and together we climbed all the way to Cloudbase. The day just got better and better from here. What a beautiful place to fly. Andrew and I shared this climb all the way to Cloudbase, and from there we decided to start our cross-country flight. On glide now. Some nice cloud streets forming, and it's time to put on the gloves. The flight continued on to be a 130-kilometre flight to the border of Victoria and New South Wales. I truly believe I could have flown further. However, due to coronavirus and border restrictions, getting back into Victoria may have posed a problem. As a result, I decided to make a turn and not cross the border. A big thank you to Bob for picking us up with a car full of cold beer and plenty of smiles to go around. Also, big thanks to Andrew for sharing such a lovely flight, and especially Flow Paragliders for the wonderful fusion.
Well, there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, maybe learned something from it. If you think there's someone out there who might enjoy the video, please feel free to share it with them. We'll see you next time on the channel. Fly safe.